Hi Garrett. Hi Everett. This is another film from Pawpaw. I wanted to tell you guys about our family and see if, so that you would know some of your background. We lived in Amarillo, Texas, and my father was director of the Department of Public Health, and he had a real good job, and he did a lot of things in Amarillo. He was a very forward-looking kind of a person. Back in those days, we were drinking mostly well water, but the city was putting in more and more water lines. And he was responsible for the state of Texas adopting a regulation on water of how clean it should be and how it should be purified so that it didn't spread diseases. And that was quite an accomplishment in his time. Another thing he did was he inspected all the local dairies who were making milk for a lot of northwest Texas. And when he first got there, the only kind of milk you could get was directly from the cow, so it was raw milk, they called it. And as it sat in a bottle, you could see the separation of the cream at the top, and on the bottom was the rest of the milk, and it wasn't mixed together. But that was dangerous too, because if the milk was waited too long before it was consumed, it would get infected, and there would be germs getting into it, and it would make people sick. So he began to work with other chemists in the state, and they finally came up with a way to pasteurize milk. And that meant taking it from the cow and putting it in machinery that heated it up and destroyed all the bacteria, and it mixed it together so that it wouldn't separate. So you had the cream in the milk, and boy was it good. And it saved a lot of lives from getting diseases that would kill them. So he was really famous for that. So water and milk were his two main interests, and he made a big contribution in that area. If you ever were to go to Amarillo, you could go by the new Department of Public Health, and it's now called the Jack C. Wyatt Public Health Department. So they named their new building, which was dedicated in 1967 to my dad and your great-grandfather. Mom was also quite a celebrity in the town, so to speak. She did her work through the church, and she worked hard to get clothing for persons that didn't have the clothing, and she talked a lot about and studied a lot about integration. At that time in Amarillo, it was being considered to turn the all-white high school into a school that would also take African Americans. We had no problem with Hispanics being in the school, but it was quite a controversy to open it up to African Americans, and she got very active in that movement. I guess that one of the greatest things, I guess, that I learned, although I didn't know I was learning it, was that they respected other people for what they believed and who they were, and didn't place judgments or try to avoid certain people or to put on a pretense to get to know other people. They were just really straightforward, solid people. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about, I'm just jumping way ahead, but when I was moving around the country in New Jersey and Missouri and California and Texas, working as a hospital chaplain, I became very interested in sailing. Amarillo was a very, very, very dry country. All we had was winds from the southwest at 25 miles an hour, and that meant dust, and we got a little rain, but there were no lakes. Well, small lake, man-made, but there were no big bodies of water around Amarillo. And so when I saw water for the first time, I became interested in the boats and eventually got into sailing. When I was in New Jersey, and I carried it on for about 20 years sailing, and I got into sailboat racing. And so almost every weekend, excuse me, I and my crew would go racing on a nearby lake, or a lot of the times we would trail to another state and compete in the racing program at a local yacht club or sailing squadron. And that really was a great relief to me. It took away all the tension of the work I was doing, and I just really loved it. And here now at age 75, I still love sailing. And when I get on a boat, I feel like I've arrived at home. I feel very, very good. My body works better, and I really enjoy it. Well, one of my aunts, Aunt Mabel, who lived near us in Amarillo, she was very involved with the black community. In those days we were in segregation, and the black community was out over the tracks, and that's where they lived. And she would collect clothes and food and money, and would go about once every 2 weeks to take things to the church over there, who would then distribute them to the persons in need in that community. And several times, particularly when I was in high school, she would take me over with her, and I got to meet some of the people there, and so that had an impact on my life. And so later on, I guess I trained, had students in my hospital programs that were from all kinds of different countries and different economic backgrounds, and we had all kinds of different others besides just white Caucasians. So I learned a lot from them. Eventually, we were living in New Jersey, Summit, New Jersey. I was a hospital chaplain there at Overlook Hospital. And this was in the 60s, 1960s, when civil rights was beginning and reaching a really high level of demonstrations and progress toward equality. And Summit had a group of very progressive ministers, and they all would come to the hospital, and we got to know each other very well. And when they, down in Alabama, there were some, that was where the main force of the marches and the protests were being held. The Unitarian minister there persuaded 3 others of us to go with him on a bus with his congregation and other people to participate in any way possible in helping the blacks, African Americans, to gain their independence and help them in whatever way we could. So we arrived in Alabama, and it was very dangerous. We spent 3 days there, and we only were outside doing anything for 1 day because it was so dangerous. People were getting killed. 4 young men were killed, black men, and 2 black men and 4 white persons were killed because they were down there helping demonstrations. So we were staying with a minister friend there, and he came home and said we had to get out of there because the police were really looking for whites who were out of state and who were there to help in the protests. And so that night, we took off in his car, and he was going to take us over into Alabama, which was a lot more safer, although it was not all that safe. But we had to ride in the trunk of the car because that many men in the car would be pulled over by the state police or sheriff or policeman. So he had called ahead and to one of his parishioners who lived out in that direction and that we would go by, and told her he was on his way, he was going to go out there, and he wanted to stop by and see her, and she agreed to that. Well, on our way there, here we are in the back of the car in the trunk. Sure enough, we were pulled over by an officer and the county sheriff. And he knew the minister, and so they talked a while, and he said, well, where are you going, minister? It's pretty late at night. And he said, well, I'm going out to visit this parishioner. And by golly, the officer called the woman, and sure enough, she said, yes, he's supposed to come here. So on that premise, he let us through, and otherwise he may have searched and found us, and I don't know what would have happened, but it wouldn't have been good. I've kept that a secret. It's been hard for me to recall that because it was so devastating to me and to the two other guys involved, and we really didn't tell a lot about that up until well, just recently, last 5 or 6 years has all that come back to me, and I've been able to share it. I haven't even shared that with family. They didn't know. We told the family we were going on a weekend retreat, and that's where we went. And this was, in fact, we were down there around about the time that John Kennedy was assassinated. So it was a very traumatic time down there, and when we got back, we learned about the assassination. But anyway, that's one thing I'm glad that I did.
Glad you lived through it.
I'm glad that it's, you know, have been finally able to talk about it to some people, and so I'm sharing that with you. Well, that's about it for this session. Hope you enjoyed some of it and put up with the rest of it. Love you both, and everybody that views this. Bye.